I am good afternoon. I'm going to call the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber?
Here.
Councilmember Martin? Here. Councilmember Monroe? Here. Vice President Harris?
Here.
President Melendez?
Here. Thank you. We are going to start with one presentation today from our own City Council staff. This is regarding instruction number 361, an item related to legislative management software. So I would ask our Chief of Staff, James Smith, and Deputy Chief of Staff, Jen Bideman, to present to us on what we're being asked to vote on today.
Absolutely. We are happy to do that. This has been quite some time in the making, the idea of moving forward with a legislative management software package, which is really, as you'll learn in the presentation, this is what helps governments streamline the creation, tracking, and publishing of laws, the agendas that support that, and other facets of the public record that ultimately supports the process that is known as City Council. And we're excited about that. As I said, it's been some time in the making. I particularly want to thank President Melendez because he's shown an enormous amount of leadership in working to get this to be moved forward, and also allowing us to be able to put the necessary staff resources both on the city clerk side and also the council central staff side. And I also want to give a big shout out to my deputy, Jen Bideman, because for me this is sort of a magic moment. As you know, I was out on a medical leave, so I left, and this was in its very infancy, and then boom, I'm back, and now here we are. So it's like a fast forward, but I know that's just for me, and that Jen and the rest of the team, including our city clerk Hazel Washington and her deputy Bridget Birch White, worked really hard to get to this point with the PMO office and others. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen, who will walk you through where we are. But I also just want to point out where we are is now at the beginning. So we've gotten to select this vendor, and a very credible vendor, but that just is the start of the process to then be able to get us a working legislative management software. And so, Jen, do you want to take it?
Okay, thank you. So, oh, it is a little funky. Okay, there we go. So we'll go over a little bit what legislative management software is, about the vendor that was selected through the RFP process, or the RFQ process, sorry. Some of the key features that are part of the contract that is in the proposed packet for approval today, the timeline and cost, and just some next steps. And then we will open it up for questions and answers by the committee. And I have Dr. Wendy Ross here, who is our project manager, who can help support answer some of your questions. So like James said, legislative management software really helps streamline our creation, tracking, publishing, and will help us move from a predominantly paper process into a digital platform. So really helping to streamline the work and supporting some efficiency and also citizen engagement. So Granicus was the selected vendor by the RFQ committee. They are the leading provider of this technology for the public sector, and they work with over 6,000 government agencies. And so they have a lot of experience here in New York working with folks like Yonkers, New York City, and of course across the country as well. Pittsburgh uses it, and several. It is the gold standard for legislative management software, put it that way. And so the key features that will be included as part of the proposed contract and legislation in front of you for approval is the primary function called Legistar. So this is the legislative management solution that allows folks to create and manage legislation from start to finish. So instead of predominantly paper, folks could use this, folks on both clerk, council, and administration side could potentially use this software to create the legislation and then prepare all of the necessary documents. So like your legislation packet, the agendas, committee reports, all of that. There's also a function called Send Agenda, which allows clerks to send and resend a published agenda to a list of email subscribers directly within Legistar with a single click of a button. So this could be an agenda change happens, there's literally only a button that has to get pressed so that you all get that update. Alternatively, as well, this functionality allows constituents and residents of the city to sign up for the system so they can get updates as changes happen to the agenda or proposed legislation as well. There's also this functionality for e-comment, and so this is where this platform opens up the opportunity for more citizen engagement in different ways. And so this portal allows for citizens to submit their feedback on agenda items by providing comments, signing up to speak before a scheduled meeting, so thinking about our speak to council processes. And I have a demo that I've made in, so I'll show you what this means in action, because this is a little abstract until you see it. We also have Insight, which is the external facing side. So this will be its own website that will be within the city's website to allow folks to have access to things like the meeting calendar, the schedule, all the legislative files, the supporting documentation, meeting agendas, minutes, and the video associated with all of your meetings. There's also a mobile app, not app, but Legislate is the mobile access, so it should be viewable on phones as well, so not just PCs. And then, of course, there is ongoing support. So Granicus will be working with this team. There's ongoing support, technical assistance, and training for staff built into the contract as well. So I pulled together a demo to share with you all, which highlights both Yonkers, New York, and Fresno, California, to show what this platform looks like. So both of these are the public-facing side of the platform, and the video is about 5 minutes. Sorry, hold on. Even when I set it up ahead of time.
So here is an example of Legistar being used in the city of Yonkers, New York. It is its own website that interlays within the city's website. As you can see when you go, you can see under the calendar and legislation, all of legislation that's available. There's a list view or a calendar view. If you look at the tabs above, there's a place for city council, committees, where you can click on each committee and see what's on the docket, what's not, who the members are, any specific. There's no business this month in this committee. You can go to another one. There's also no business here. So then you can click on council members, and this brings you back to the actual Yonkers website, where it has their council members available. And archive meetings, which is a tab on the City of Yonkers website. So if I wanted to search a particular piece of legislation, I would go to the legislation tab. Let's type in community development block grants for all years. Yonkers has uploaded only a couple of years of data at this point. And if I hit search, these are the two that populate, and I would be able to pull up that resolution or general ordinance, look to see what actions have been done, what meeting that was a part of, look at the text of the legislation. So here's the resolution for this piece, this resolution. I can go back and see any actions that happened and where it stands. Here's all the details of this resolution was adopted. And then if I go back, I can see the other piece of legislation listed here related to community development block grant. let's search parks and see what else comes up. You can see every single piece of legislation that they have uploaded that mentions parks in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a special ordinance, resolution, blah, blah, blah. And you can click on that and find out when it was adopted, what the agenda was, what the action details are, and find out which meeting it is. So opening up transparency for the public to be able to see who voted on what does it look like. And if you click meeting details, you can find the full agenda for that specific council meeting. And you'll be able to click on the files, which uploads the formal agenda here. This is a PDF that is downloadable. Here's the agenda packet with all the proposed legislation that actually allows you to index and click on a specific piece of legislation, and it will bring you to where it is in the platform. So you can again go and look at the action details, the agenda, and any action tip. So now for the comment, Yonkers doesn't have that set up at the moment, so we're going to the city of Fresno that has it set up. E-comment shows as a column here along the side of the platform, and when you enable it on the back end, it allows, we'll say when folks can e-comment. So this is their city council meeting, and it provides some details for the public on how they can do it, and then this is the agenda. Click on specific pieces of the agenda that have been able to comment. So here is a local hearing. You can, this is an annexation public hearing. It has all the details. It allows you to click to the ordinance. You can say if you're opposed, you're neutral, supported, and you can put any comments below, which gets submitted to council. These generate a report, which can be sent out to council members. Let's go to another option. If you click on this agenda item, it is an appointment. You can again click to find the actual text of the legislation. You can comment as a guest, or you can sign in.
Okay, so that was the brief demo of trying to understand what it actually looks like, because I feel like I could have shared all of these are what all the things are, but to Councilmember Gruber's point, it's helpful to actually see it. So that is what the public will see. In terms of timeline, let me just go back into presentation mode. So the hope is the legislation is in front of you all this month, and upon your adoption, it will then go for contract signing between the City of Rochester and the vendor. And then once that happens, we will then enter this phase that Granicus calls Project Discovery. So they will be spending a lot of time with our department, with the clerk's office, with Dr. Wendy Ross and PMO, and with the city council liaison, in figuring out what does the current process look like for the city of Rochester. We've had a lot of calls and questions and back and forth with Granicus, and they have been helpful, but this is where they really get into the weeds and the nuts and bolts of how we currently do things. And this is where their technical expertise is going to be very helpful, because they've supported a lot of cities and municipalities in really going from predominantly paper processes to an online platform in the past. And so we will spend time with them where they can learn all of that. And so there'll be meetings set up for that. And then they will go back and start customizing and configuring the software. And there are two or three iterations that they will do with us of where it's like listening and learning. They they will do it. They will bring it to us. We'll test it, and it's iterative process, I suppose. And then the hope is by summer 2026 of next year, we have a mock environment ready. We have training that could be rolled out to staff and to council. And then in fall of 2026, we begin with production rollout and historical data migration. If you all recall, our office had several interns with us this summer helping support getting all of the files together for data migration. And so our hope is to have data, all of the current data that is currently on the city's website from 2000 to present, available within this platform. And so the interns worked really hard all summer to get the data ready so that it can be searchable, functionable, and usable within the platform. This is the cost breakdown that is detailed within the transmittal in front of you today. You can see it here. The contract is the proposed contract will be for 3 years, and our data migration cost is a one-time cost of $15,000. So our next steps is pending council approval of this legislation and authorizing the agreement. The city council staff is going to work with the office of the clerk alongside the project management office and Granicus to really begin the implementation phase of that project discovery.
Just before we get into Q&A, I do want to make mention, obviously we provided you with the presentation from the side of the council office and also the clerk, but the administration liaison to council's office, Josanne Reeves and Chamari, were a huge help every step of the way. So I do want to acknowledge that. And because we do work, and very specifically this work is collaborative with the administration. So it would be wrong not to mention that before we move on. And also kudos to Jen and the council office staff all summer who worked with those interns. You saw the limitation on a Yonkers site. They could only go back 2 years. We're going to be able to, hopefully when this comes online, go back much, much further thanks to that great work all summer.
Thanks. I will start off some questioning and then just pass it down the line to folks. To James's last point, I'd ask Deputy Mayor and the administration, is there a plan for the administration to use this other than sending kind of completed legislation our way?
The focus really was on the clerk side right now, and I think it needs some work for it to work on our side. I think it can, but I think we have to have a lot of conversation.
Got it. So in terms of the back to James and Jen, in terms of the answer that was just given, and even some of what you said in your presentation about how Yonkers decided to not use the e-comment portion, for example. So is what we're paying for the kind of fully loaded version? What if we choose to not use the fully loaded version?
Yes, we are paying for the fully loaded version, and I think part of project discovery, using Granicus's terms, is going to be figuring out what is the cadence of the rollout of everything, right? And what will work and what won't. And I don't have those answers yet until we get into it.
So this is a do not exceed, but it's possible that we actually pay less than this if we choose. There's some of the bells and whistles we don't want.
Wendy, do you have insight?
Excuse me. So we have about 2 modules that are optional right now. If we decided in the future not to use that, then we would have to do some sort of negotiation to have those licenses removed. The actual bulk of the cost of this system is what they offer. And so whether or not the administration does the work, starting from somebody in the PMO, maybe writing a transmittal all the way through the process, it's still the same cost.
Got it. And what's the cost after 3 years?
It is a 6% upcharge every year is what they plan for.
So it's going to be in the $80,000 range annually moving forward.
Yes.
Okay. Vice President Harris, then I'll just go down the line.
Thank you for all the work on council staff and administration for this. I'd like to just ask, with the Yonkers in New York, did they mention if they tried the fully loaded version and then scaled back? And if so, what was the reasons for them scaling back?
We're not entirely sure. We did speak with Yonkers, and we actually spoke to a number of municipalities as part of this, the RFQ committee, to see how other municipalities have navigated with this. In speaking with them, a lot of municipalities build, so they start with one piece and they continue to build the system out. So, you know, Yonkers is very new to that system, and so hasn't built out, obviously, all that legislative history at this point in time. But, you know, I think it really depends on where they're at.
Okay, and I got one more question, if that's okay. Okay. I see that you have the 3-year total cost, and it includes the data migration, which is a one-time cost. So after that, 3 years, would we have to renew a contract with them for maintenance of Granicus? And if so, how long would that be? Another 3 year, or is it a 1-year extension? How does that work?
Well, I think that certainly would be something that we would be able to negotiate out, but I want to interject because you're on the cusp of something that is important to note. So we would own the data whether we went forward with Granicus or not. So that's important, I think, that if we decided not to continue a relationship with Granicus and use a different vendor, the data would remain in the city, so we would be able to move forward with someone else if that were determined. But the terms and things, I think, would be negotiable. And Wendy, I think you probably know there's probably a set program with Granicus, yeah?
Yes, so going towards the end of the 3rd year, we would do some discussion internally and determine if we really wanted this solution and what would be the right number of years and negotiating pricing for that. So we might say, well, we're going to renew for 1 more year, or they could allow us to renew for up to 5 more years.
Can I get a follow-up real quick? So there's no opportunity to lock in a price at this point, you know, going forward after the 3 years. That's what I was concerned about.
Typically, when we do that, it's by signing a longer contract.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yes, thank you. So I'll echo some of my colleagues on thanking everyone for their work on this. I know this has been a lot of back and forth negotiations behind the scenes and a lot of meetings. I did have a question about the migration, the one time. I know that at different points there were different lookbacks of numbers of years. It started at maybe 5 years, and I think we've extended that to further. Could you speak to how far back would data migration look?
Yeah, so we will have data from 2000 to present, but the detail of data will be a little bit different. So if you were to go to the City Council's site now where legislation lives, you will see there is a point where once the annual proceedings are complete, the annual proceedings are posted on the website. And so we will have the annual proceedings from 2000 to as to the date the last one was complete, sorry. So which I think is 2022. Yep. So 2000 to 2022, the general proceedings will be available, but from 2017 to present, we will also have the agendas more built out. So when you saw like the Yonkers, like we'll have the agenda, the council agenda, all of that as well. So if you were to look up, let's say using a parks example again, if I were to search parks and was looking for a piece of legislation from 2005, what it would do in the system is it would populate, but when I clicked on a link to see what that legislation was or that legislation text, it would route you to the proceedings document where that legislation lies, as opposed to an individual document. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'll save questions just because I know we're looking at time here. But in terms of the experience, I request that we send some example links to all of council for folks to play around with in other systems. I am excited about the fact that I could search for legislation and actually find it, which I know is a big challenge. Often I'm going to the clerk's office or somewhere else to try to navigate old legislation. And then I also am probably most excited about the idea and the concept of finding more ways to get comment from the public. I think that the system will allow for additional input. I think sometimes we get a very small subset of our community that will come to us speak to council, for example. This will give us a wider range of opportunity to hear from more people. So I'm looking forward to those features. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I'm very excited about this happening. The first time I heard about this was through Councilmember Lupien. I know she's been pushing for this for a while, and I'm excited that everyone was able to come together to make it happen. I'm excited that it'll increase transparency, make it easier for folks to search for legislation. And the one question I have is around like the time it'll take to upload things. One critique I've received is sometimes there are things on the agenda, but they may not be uploaded on the city website in time for people to see it before they appear on the agenda. How does this system help with that, and what do you envision? So for example, a statement of necessity, let's say it happens the day of, how do we make sure it's still searchable?
I mean, when we get into the technicals with them, but it would, everything we've talked about so far is that would be live, it would be loaded. You know, sometimes with the internet, if your browser it hasn't refreshed, you might not get it immediately, but on our end, this is the system we're going to use. So it won't be like we'll be uploading stuff to it. It's the system we will use. So it will be able to refresh. Wendy, I don't know if I want to say real time per se, because you know, sometimes there is a lag with browsers, but it's pretty much you're looking at real time.
Yeah, I'll just add that the system is nice because people will be entering and making those changes in the system. And so it'll be like a one-click process. It won't be like reach out to our web developer people and going through that process and then waiting for it to populate that way.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for all your hard work on this.
Councilwoman Monroe?
So how will this work with what is currently the printed process as far as getting packets out?
That is a great question. And part of our work with Granicus is to share with them what our current process is, to see how we're making sure that we are meeting the requirements per our charter, per New York State law, while also using this system. And so the hope would be is that everything is in the system, right? That the legislation is active in it. It becomes much easier to click 5 pieces of legislation that have been referred to BFG, for example, and create an agenda in the system, right? Or compile that legislation together in those 5 pieces in this example and create that PDF, right? And so the system itself will create a proposed legislation package, and so it is printable, so you will be able to still receive hard copies of that legislation. It just will change how that hard copy gets to you. There's templates that they have that they'll be working with us, so they will take our the existing council templates for the agenda, for proposed legislation, for all of it, and it will be inputted into the system. So it should produce some efficiencies, but we'll know more once we get into the weeds with Granicus.
So on the administration's end, will they be doing everything electronically, and that's how the clerk's office will receive it?
We're going to do that exploring once the contract is approved to see how we navigate that space. I don't know, Josanna, if you wanted to speak to that.
I think there is a little challenge with that. I did speak to Yonkers, and they actually chose not to do that because you have to upload everything differently than we do now. But I think once they're on board, we can have those conversations and see if there's a way for us to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Will we still be using, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I would just add that there is a bulk upload option within the software, so regardless, it will, like, if we were to just receive the legislation from the administration, there's a bulk upload functionality that lets us upload and go from there.
Great, so it wouldn't be as cumbersome on the clerk's office then for that initial input?
That's what we've been told by the vendor.
Okay. Will we still be, well, does this affect the bound proceedings books?
That's a great question. We actually have started conversations with Granicus about that. We are required to have the bound proceedings, the printed version of that, and have had a lot of back and forth with them around indexing and general code and what does that mean. And they have shared with us that they need to learn more about our process to be able to give us the full answer to that question. But the proceedings will still happen. They still will be printed.
And what's the latest proceeding book that we have at this point? Because I know we had fallen behind.
2022?
Thank you. So eCode Online has our charter and code that will continue, and that's something on the administration side for the website?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a request. So the old guy on council still wants to print and packet every month. So if you guys can make sure that hits my mailbox, I'll be good.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. One of the biggest questions we asked the vendor at the very beginning was, is it still printable? So we've got you.
Great program, great presentation. I am wondering, for the e-comment section, is it possible to record the testimonies that come in from Speak to Council, upload them into e-comment, especially as they pertain to the different committees, different legislation, and then add those to the report that you will be providing us every month?
That's something that I will bring to the vendor, because at this time I'm not, maybe?
It would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll bring it to the vendor to ask.
Thank you.
Okay, no, any further questions? Councilmember Lightfoot, you want to ask any questions about this? Okay, thanks. Then we're going to move right on to the legislative business. Thank you, James and Jen, for the presentation. I will start with introductory number 357, authorizing an agreement to implement a positive rent reporting program. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion. It's been moved.
Second.
And seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Introductory number 358, amending bond ordinances of the City of Rochester, New York. I'll just ask for just a quick explanation from OMB about what it is that we are doing here.
So oftentimes when we issue bond ordinances or have you authorize debt, there will be some sort of contingency allocation included. Many of these items actually ended up not using the contingency, so they sit out there until we decide we don't need them anymore, at which time we will come back to you and ask you to deauthorize this particular debt so that we can restore it to its original debt limit by fiscal year, and then be able to use it again for specific projects.
So another way of saying that is that we asked to borrow money that we didn't use, and we're basically asking to be able to move that borrowed money around to other places as needed.
That's correct.
And in some cases, because this goes all the way back to, if I recall, 2018 maybe, in some cases, is it just about we never borrowed the money, so it's an administrative function, just say we never borrowed the money? Or is all this money going to be realized somehow, some way for other capital projects?
Most likely.
Okay, and when is the decision made around that?
It depends on if there's a project that was currently listed on the debt authorization plan, you would have received a copy of that back in June when you authorized the debt limit. So you can see all the years that are outstanding there. And you know, if there's a project that maybe wasn't on there that we need funds for, we'll go to these funding sources to try to use it.
Thanks. And this is not something that happens every year. This happens when there's.
We try to do it every year.
You do?
Yes.
Always this time of year?
It varies.
Okay. Any questions about what's happening in 358? Councilmember Patterson?
Okay, so I heard the answer, but let me make sure I understand the answer. So the answer is, at the administration's desire, they can reallocate these dollars for other bondable projects. Is that correct, or is it just limited? Better question. What are the limitations for which these dollars can be used?
So the project has to have a useful life or as defined by the local finance law.
So in other words, so again, these are all varying forms of construction projects. That's what we can use these dollars for and nothing else.
Correct.
And so you would be coming back to us and saying, we want to do this project, and the funding source is going to be, an example would be the $500,000 from the Joseph A. Florenco Rochester Riverside Convention Center escalator replacements. We've got $500,000 there. We're going to use that $500,000 for this other project. Is that what we would be seeing in the future?
No, typically when you deauthorize it in this format, the debt authorization loses its identity.
Okay.
Right? So it goes back into our debt authorization plan based on what the original project was.
Okay. Can we get a report of how much money? So there's a debt authorization fund that exists. Is that what you're telling me?
Back in June, you would have approved the debt limit, and attached to that would have been a copy of the debt authorization plan.
Okay.
So that includes all the outstanding debt from prior fiscal years that has not been authorized by council.
But
What you see here has been authorized by council and then is transmitted to finance and sits on what's referred to as the authorized and unissued list. And as the departments borrow the funds, that list is drawn down, and these items are currently sitting on the finance list to be, and they're no longer needed for these particular projects.
So instead of getting lost in the weeds, because I'm almost ready to like put on my pit hat and dive into the weeds.
So
can you give us a thorough explanation of this in writing, so that we'll have a better understanding of what this is? Because it sounds as though there's a fund that exists. Okay, I hear you shaking your head, but it sounds like a fund. I'm just saying, I'm looking at a couple $1 million here without trying. Sounds like a fund.
They only become a fund, a bond fund, once they're actually borrowed through the process that finance takes to issue bond anticipation notes.
Okay, so
Councilmember Patterson.
Sure.
So these amounts have not been borrowed.
Right.
Your body has authorized the borrowing of these amounts.
Okay.
But they haven't been borrowed. So what we're coming back to you to say is that these amounts that haven't been borrowed, we now need to fund other projects that we will be coming back to you in the future for, to utilize the funds that have not been borrowed.
Okay, sounds better.
Okay.
Please put it in writing, because I'm going to have
Absolutely.
other questions, and I'm done.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're happy to put it in writing, and rest assured that it's a transparent process. So I understand
I don't doubt
that's where the question's headed, and I appreciate the
Oh,
question.
yeah, no, I don't doubt the transparency of the process. I'm just trying to understand the process. So that's all. There's no notion that there's any skullduggery afoot, just trying to understand it. Thank you.
Councilor Monroe.
So I'm just wondering then, for those amounts, do they stay reported within the fiscal year that they were originally bonded for?
That's
such
correct.
that when you use them again, you would be referring back to that year?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, they stay within the debt limit.
Okay, yes, so the debt limit is going to be the same for that year. It's not being reduced, or it's not a case of you not meeting the debt limit, so that this doesn't impact future borrowing against our debt limit currently?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion on 358. It's been moved by Vice
Second.
President Harris
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 359, authorizing the cancellation or refund of erroneous taxes and charges. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion. It's been moved.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 360, authorizing agreements to provide revenue control equipment and services for municipal parking garages. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
Oh, I have
Councilmember
one.
Monroe?
I was just wondering about the cost here for the South Avenue garage, since it's so much higher.
So I can answer that. So this is because there will be multiple entry and exit gates that the revenue equipment will be installed at.
Thank you.
If no further questions, I'll take a motion.
So move it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 361, authorizing an agreement for legislative management software. Any questions, comments, or concerns? It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Instruction number 366, authorizing ordinance number 2025-269 relating to an agreement for age-friendly cities planning. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion. It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Owing to an ethical conflict, Council President Melendez will be presenting introductory number 367.
Yes, so I do have an introductory 367, a resolution approving an appointment to the Board of Directors for Action for a Better Community. There is a disclosure for this item. Councilmember Gruber, who has the proposed appointee, must recuse himself from participating in voting. Any questions, comments, concerns? I entertain a motion. It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Absten-
opposed?
abstention.
And one abstention. The motion carries.
Now that it's been passed, Corporation Council, am I allowed to make a comment about that now that it's passed through?
Yes, they're not deliberations, so yes.
Yeah. Just a note, President Melendez, I believe a few years ago you nominated Councilmember Martin to join me on the board, and I believe she declined the opportunity. I think we had another council staff offered, and that was not able to work for reasons that are due to the ABC bylaws. But we do need another city council representative on the board at some point, and if it's not going to be someone from this body, I would hope that we could ask the administration to provide someone from the administration to serve. It's really critical that ABC has a full board from the public sector that's been asked.
So yes, so Councilmember Gruber, I will follow up with you on that. We are back and forth with Action for Better Community right now on what the parameters are, and we have potentially one or two candidates internally that we can offer up. So we will follow up with that.
Okay. Happy to keep serving. Thanks for the opportunity. With no further business, the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee stands adjourned.
At this time, I will call the People, Parks, and Public Works Committee to order, and I ask the Deputy Clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Lightfoot,
Present, ma'am.
Councilmember Lupian, Councilmember Patterson,
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will now proceed to move on the business of the committee. Introductory number 341, authorizing agreements and appropriations for construction of Rock City Skate Park Phase 2 project. Any questions, comments, or concern?
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Gruber.
Thank you. Very excited to see this move forward. I understand that the restroom and concessions have been deferred, and I get that budget limitations are real. I'm curious, one of the narratives for having restrooms and concessions back when Phase 1 was created was to be able to attract some national competitions. Does not having restrooms and concessions make that impossible? Does anyone know the answer to that?
Can I get back to you on that?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to I'd like to be able to square the reality of budget limitations with understanding why that's the thing to get cut, because there was a narrative, and granted it was the previous mayoral administration, but there was a narrative that we were going to be able to get some pretty big competitive events here. I'd assume no restrooms means no events.
So you're correct. It was to have events here. I'm not sure if by not having restrooms prevents us from doing that. So that's what I'm saying. I would get back.
Yeah. So then I'll ask us. I'll get to DS in just 1 second. I would ask one specific follow-up then as well. I think Visit Rochester has a team of people who deal with kind of sports tourism, and I think that they were the ones who had reached out to us and said, "There's a great opportunity. Skateboarding at the time was just becoming an Olympic sport. Great opportunity to get some events here." They probably know the specs better than anyone else. And if they haven't been engaged at this point, I'd recommend talking to Visit Rochester about that.
Will do.
I would like to add that this is considered a next phase. So we are still very committed to adding this in a future phase. We're also looking at adjacent property to potentially have it at a more optimal location than where it was originally planned. So it's still very much on our radar. Thank you.
Got it. So I guess thank you for clarifying. I'm confused. The reason why I didn't grasp that is because we're going to build Phase 2, but it's been moved out of Phase 3. So what you're saying is there may be a Phase 4 that's undesigned yet?
The phasing is a little funky because of the funding. So when we were looking at ways to reduce Phase 2 to make it fit within the funding that we have currently, we elected to move the concession stand out in our brains to a future phase because we also determined that there might be some better opportunities in terms of the actual location. So as we continue to pursue funding for the next phase of the skate park project, that remains, quite frankly, our highest priority for the next phase.
So it's possible, despite what the transmittal says, that restroom and the concessions will be back into Phase 3. It just is going to require some more money.
It was designed under Phase 3. It's the construction, the terminology as to what the next phase of construction is. I could provide a little more clarity in writing.
Okay. Thanks. I think I follow, though, and I appreciate it's still a priority. And I would just love a sense from Visit Rochester of how they perceive of this. Thank you.
Any additional questions? I'd like to add, can you please provide that in writing still?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I got a motion and a second. And now we vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Introductory number 342, appropriating funds related to City Hall sidewalk, stair, and airway replacement and repair project. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Move
Need a
it.
motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 343, authorizing appropriations for Dewey Avenue and Emerson Street Improvement Project. Questions, comments, concerns? Need a motion and a second. Councilmember Lightfoot. Oh, Councilmember Monroe.
There's the mention of bicycle facilities, and I'm wondering what those are.
We can provide a map to you as to what the facilities are that are currently planned.
So are these for people who have manual bikes, or would this be something that would be like a station for a VO?
Right now we're looking at sort of a combination of one-way cycle tracks for multimodal use in street bike lanes, and in some locations there are no bike facilities proposed, as they are residential streets.
Oh, okay, okay. I was thinking of something much more static, so that will be very helpful, your information.
Any additional comments, Councilmember Patterson?
Nope. Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 344, a resolution authorizing implementation and funding in first instance 100% of federal aid and state Monticelli program aid eligible costs of the Dewey Avenue and Emerson Street reconstruction and intersection improvements transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion and a second.
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 345, authorizing professional service agreement related to the parking garage evaluation and repair program. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 346, authorizing an agreement relating to the Rochester Community Sports Complex Art Training Center roof replacement project. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Councilmember Monroe?
Could we have a list of the events and programming for the rest of the year? For the rest of this year?
Yes, we'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 347, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing issuance of $1,534,000 bonds of said city to finance the Rochester Community Sports Complex Art Training Center roof replacement project. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion in a second.
Second.
All, need a motion?
Move it.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 348, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $718,000 bonds of said city to finance Broad and Allen Firehouse Roof Replacement Project. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Monroe.
Where will the firehouse be working out of?
The firehouse will not have to be relocated for this roof project.
Thanks.
Councilmember Patterson.
So just a process question. Since this one and this firehouse and the next firehouse coming up, since they're both under construction, why are we doing the bonding for the roofs now? How come we didn't do this all as a comprehensive project when we did it before? Can you explain the reasoning?
As with all buildings in our inventory, we have sort of a systematic way of going after funding to address the different building systems depending on their ages.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we have a project that's somewhat specific at Broad and Allen and at Goodman for gender-neutral facilities.
Mm-hmm.
This was a separate CIP plan for roofing, so that's why it's on a slightly different trajectory.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just not feeling the answer, but
Move it. So yeah, let's
Any
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 349, authorizing amendatory agreements related to the Broad and Allen roof replace, the Broughton Allen Firehouse roof replacement project. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory reading 350, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $750,000 of said city to finance the cost of Goodman Firehouse priority facility improvements. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I
Move
need a
it.
motion and second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any nays? Motion carries. Introductory number 351, authorizing inventory agreements related to the Goodman Firehouse priority improvement projects. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 352, authorizing a grant agreement related to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Urban and Community Forestry Grant Program. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Councilman McGruber.
Thanks. So, pretty good chunk of money for stump grinding. Is that all stuff that we do ourselves, or do we contract this out?
Good afternoon. Typically, we've done all of our stump grinding in-house. We have started to begin to contract some of it out, and with this funding, we'll be able to contract out more of it.
Is there just a big backlog of need here?
There is somewhat of a backlog. Actually, the state, after our initial application, which is about half this amount, the state came back to us and said, hey, we have additional funding. Would you like to change the amount? We have more funding. So we took that opportunity and asked for more funding and received it.
Wow. They won't give us money for other things, but they'll give us money for stump grinding, huh?
Take what you get.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, New York State.
Hey, I'm not complaining. I got folks in my neighborhood asking for it. I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory 353, authorizing the mandatory agreement related to the joint Rochester Works Monroe County Water Authority Corrosion Control Treatment Study. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 354, authorizing agreement with the Great Lakes Gaming. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Actually, if, to the administration, could you explain this a little bit? If you can give us an explanation on this.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
We are working on having an esports gaming lounge at one of the rec centers. But while we're doing that, we have several rec centers who have sites and the work. And so this contract will allow us to continue the work in the rec centers as well as prepare for our full esports gaming lounge.
Thank you. So this will, this gaming lounge, this partnership will, I know that there's gaming lounges at some of the other rec centers. Will that just enhance what we offer across the whole city?
Yes, this contract will enhance what we already have as well as support the building of the new esports gaming lounge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Monroe?
Which R center is it at now, and what are the other ones that this will be added to?
So the esports gaming lounge that we are building out will be at Jackson Art Center. Currently, we have esports at Gant, Carter, and Adams. And I may have forgotten one, and I'll make sure I get them all.
57 St. Paul, I believe, has
So we don't have
capability.
one at we
Okay.
don't at 57. We moved. That's why we're moving over to Jackson.
So there's nothing in the Northwest District of the city?
I will look and make sure that I've given you the right ones, because it may be.
Thanks.
Any questions, any additional questions, comments, concerns? I need a motion and a second.
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. Introductory Room 355, authorizing an agreement for athletic skill development and academic support services. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Monroe.
Where is this program located?
At the Rochester Sports Complex.
Thank you.
I need a motion and a second. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? And motion carries. Introducing Amendment 356, authorizing the agreement for competitive swimming program for youth. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introducing Amendment 356, authorizing an agreement for competitive swimming program for, oh, well, they already did that. Hang on. That's a double one. With no further business, the People, Parks, and Public Works Committee stands adjourned.
All right. Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I pray that everyone is well. As we're transitioning from the People's Parks and Works to our public safety meeting. There was no presentations this afternoon or this evening. However, I would ask that I think it's appropriate in lieu of what's going on in our world today, and some of the things that we've seen happening with the assassination, Mr. Kirk, I just would like to have a moment of silence just in lieu of everything that's going on and just praying for peace in our world. Just if you wouldn't mind joining us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lightfoot.
Present, ma'am.
Councilmember Gruber. Here. Councilmember Lupian. Councilmember Martin is excused. Councilmember Monroe. Here. Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Smith. Here. Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you. We'll go directly into our business of public safety. You should have on your desk, council members, the public safety memo for this month. And please get any information or questions you may have to our staff as you normally do, and we'll try to get those answers to you prior to our vote on these pieces of legislation. Introduction number 362, authorizing an agreement for fitness for duty clinical services for the Rochester Police Department. Any questions, comments, and/or concerns? Councilmember Monroe.
I'm wondering if Dr. Weissman conducts under a separate contract any of the psychological evaluations for police recruits?
I don't know. I will find out and get back to you in writing.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
And then I'm also wondering if we could have information about what is the psychological profile we look for in recruits. What are the things that, what are the red flags, what are the problems, or what are the assets that we're looking for?
We do, and I'll provide it in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, and/or concerns on this introductory? If not, it's been moved and I need a second. It's been moved and second. Now we vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Introductory passes. Introductory number 363, authorizing agreement with SIMSI Incorporated. Any questions, comments, and/or concerns? Councilman Monroe.
This is very interesting, and I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more about it.
I'm certainly not the expert that Director Petiti is, but the idea is, again, trying to move away from picking our enforcement areas, as you will, strictly by crime data, as we do now. Being able to look at holistically more at our environmental factors to try and get the whole picture of what causes crime in certain areas, so that we could, again, possibly reach out to other city agencies, other partners, to apply remedies that might not necessarily be the police.
So the ability to do more prevention.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? I entertain a motion.
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
And second. Now we vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Introduction number 364 has an amendment, and I'm going to offer an amendment for the Fire Department Counseling and Stress Management Service to correct the legislation to read authorizing an agreement for the Fire Department Counseling and Stress Management Service. I need a motion to amend the legislation.
Move it.
It's been moved and second. Now we vote on the amendment of the legislation of 364. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Introductory passes. Now let's vote on the amendment, on the amended legislation. I need a motion.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Forgive me, Councilman Monroe. Councilman Monroe.
Oh, that's just fine. Again, just like some of the things we do for the police department, I wanted to give a kudos for making sure that we have the supports that we need for people who are rushing right into the face of danger.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure Chair Lightfoot would want to say this as well, but certainly the fire department has tackled quite a few huge fires, and I am very thankful for the service that they've done.
Amen. Amen. No, totally agree. And over the years, we have not only advocated for police and fire, because more so with the police, as you said, Councilman Monroe, we tend to see this more with the police, but we are appreciative of the fact that it's always been there for COPE. It's always been there, but we've seen them kind of get a little more use other methods, if you will, of trying to create opportunities for people in uniform to seek counseling, because typically that's taboo in the world of public safety, unfortunately. But we're seeing them getting more creative with ways of building trust by having a lot of counseling services that may be prior people in uniforms and things of that nature that are breaking down some of the barriers and building up some of the trust towards receiving some of the counseling. And you're absolutely right, especially post-pandemic. We have seen our first responders are going through so much in dealing with the things, not only the stuff that they're seeing nationally. And I would say that I'm grateful for some of the television shows that are now, and I don't know how police feel about this, but I've gotten addicted to the Rookie Show. And I think it's been awesome because it's showing us another side of policing, in my opinion, that, you know, is showing how human these individuals are. And we've always had all different types of fire department shows that do the same thing. But once again, I agree with you, Councilman Monroe, that this is great, and I support it, and as well as the rest of my colleagues. And thank you for continuing this work, both chiefs. We've moved it, we've seconded it. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. Introduction number 365, authorizing an agreement related to the agency medical director services for the fire department. Council President Melendez.
Yes, I just have a question about when we've gone through different negotiations of contracts and had conversations, it seemed like the doctor that we have here, Cushman, is well respected, seems to represent a lot of different interests. And I just wonder, in terms of the administration's approach to this, if there's any other viable options, or is this the only option that could be presented to council?
I'll have to provide a response to that in writing, but happy to do so.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? I entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
It's been moved. It's been second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, introductory passes. Are there any, we good, clerk? Okay. If there's no further business to come before the Public Safety Committee, we are adjourned. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your day. Kabute.